In mid-2013, the Australian Parliament's Joint Committee on Human Rights found that Australia's offshore processing legislation violated many human rights obligations. First, offshore processing unlawfully discriminates between asylum seekers based on their mode and date of arrival. Those who arrive by plane are processed in Australia, while those who arrive by boat after August 2012 are processed offshore. Those processed offshore do not have the same rights of review as those processed in Australia. And if they are found to be refugees, they may have to wait many, many years until they are resettled. They will only be resettled in Australia as a matter of last resort. Secondly, conditions in offshore processing facilities fall short of the minimum standards required by international human rights treaties to which Australia is a party. Manus Island in Papua New Guinea has been found to be unfit for children and vulnerable people such as pregnant women, people with disabilities or other complex health needs, as well as survivors of torture and trauma. Basic rights to healthcare, education, work, social security, and an adequate standard of living are highly unlikely to be sufficiently protected, especially given the chronic poverty and high unemployment rates in Papua New Guinea and the lack of capacity and resources of the government of Papua New Guinea. Thirdly, the cumulative impact of the policy, in particular on refugees' physical and mental health, may constitute degrading treatment under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. Australia itself has undertaken not to send people to countries where they risk inhuman or degrading treatment. Yet our own asylum policy is potentially subjecting people to this very form of harm. Fourthly, the mandatory and prolonged detention of asylum seekers without adequate judicial oversight clearly violates the prohibition on arbitrary detention under Article 9 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. The conditions in detention on Manus Island have been described by the UN High Commissioner for Refugees as harsh and below international standards. The impacts of prolonged detention on asylum seekers who were detained on Manus Island under the previous Pacific solution have been well documented. Many were diagnosed with a range of mental illnesses, including depression, anxiety, and post-traumatic stress disorder, with high levels of actual or threatened self-harm.